Hello again, Andrew here, and today we're on episode 185. And we're continuing Matthew chapter 26, and we're in Holy Week. Now, verse 6. Now, while Jesus was at Bethany in the house of Simon the Leper, a woman came to him with an alabaster jar of very costly ointment, and she poured it on his head as he sat at the table. But when the disciples saw it, they were angry and said, "Why this waste? For this ointment could have been sold for a large sum and the money given to the poor." But Jesus, aware of this, said to them, "Why do you trouble the woman? She has performed a good service for me. For you always have the poor with you, but you will not always have me. For you, by pouring this ointment on my body, she has prepared me for burial. Truly I tell you, whenever this good news is proclaimed in the whole world, what she has done will be told in remembrance of her." Well, this story isn't dated. It is sometime during that last week. Matthew and Mark's accounts are very similar. In Mark's Gospel, it's those present that do the grumbling about the waste. Here in Matthew's, it's the disciples. John's Gospel may be telling the same story, it may not. In John's Gospel, this seems to happen the night before Jesus heads down to Jerusalem for his triumphal entry. It's Mary who does the anointing, and she anoints Jesus' feet, not his head. And she does it in her own home, at a dinner given in Jesus' honour. Here, the response, though, is the same. Although this time it's Judas Iscariot who complains. And yet Jesus, his response, is exactly the same as in the other two Gospels. It's possible that this is a separate anointing, although the nearly identical responses from Jesus might call that into question. It's interesting. I want to make no kind of definitive judgments about it. Both Matthew and Mark follow the story up with Judas immediately going to the chief priests to stitch up a deal to turn Jesus over to them. John's Gospel, on the other hand, hints at Judas' motivation for his rage, pointing to him, while being the treasurer of the troop, being a thief. John does not have, his Gospel does not have a high opinion of Judas at all. It cuts him very little slack. I may have just muddied the waters a bit. The truth is that none of this is straightforward and simple and easy to unpick. And what I generally find useful is to take the particular narrative on its own terms. If they're different, say, okay, deal with the one that is in front of you and what is it saying. While it can be useful to seek to fit it into the broader context with the other Gospels, often the Gospel writer is choosing his own narrative to make a particular point. Yet there is nothing distinctive in this account that sets it apart from Mark's fuller telling. So here we see this anointing in its simplest telling. It's an act of pure devotion, and I think that is the whole point. It's of extravagant and wasteful generosity. It really is. When you look at it, you think, wow, wow. It may be that this woman is surrendering her dowry in order to bless Jesus. In this, she may have just sacrificed her chances of making a good marriage. The tragedy in the story is the disciples' pragmatism, their rage at the generosity of this unnamed woman and her generosity towards Jesus. They have walked with him cheek by jowl for the past 3 years. And there's never really any hints of this kind of warmth, this kind of devotion, as we see from this woman. For them, it seems that at this point anyway, it's all about the mission. What a waste of resources. But did they really care about the poor? Were perhaps they more concerned about their own budget, knowing how close to the wind they often sailed? Sometimes, I think maybe often wondering where their next meal was coming from. and here was a potential buffer. Yet there was a place within them of knowing that Jesus was the man for others, and may well have wanted to give the money away anyway. Their words about the poor are, I suspect, mostly for him. But he's not having it. Surprisingly, he suggests that the poor are omnipresent, they're always with us, and that he is only with them for a short time. Perhaps it's the display of tenderness, of affection, of unembarrassed and intimate love, of devotion that has caught him and held him. In the first century, it's going to be hard for a man to do what this woman just did. In the 21st century, when we're still wanting to sexualize everything, it probably also is still going to be difficult. And yet for Jesus, what she has done is okay. It's more than okay. He affirms the tenderness and the generosity. He affirms the wholeheartedness and the costliness of the gift. After all, what else is he going to do? Rebuke a woman who has just laid bare her heart and given to him what is most precious? Trash her? I don't think so. Such a gift needs to be honoured. It needs to be treasured. And that is exactly what he does with it. God bless you.